Double Shovelware Edition. She Dies Tomorrow, You're Not Alone. Neither of these movies were any goddamn good. Like any multi-film review that I do, there will be spoilers throughout. So, She Dies Tomorrow. This is from Neon Studios. I love Neon Studios, and I was excited to see this one because it looked like a pitch black comedy that had some horror elements about a woman named Amy that is telling everybody within earshot, mainly her friend Jane first, and then it kind of spreads that she's going to die tomorrow. And basically, the concept of this movie is if stupidity and paranoia were contagious. I say stupidity because nobody acts like a goddamn human in this movie. Now, it could have also had, been like, a bit of a commentary on mental illness and us overthinking things and getting thoughts in our head where, it will just wear us down and it'll beat us down and we, actually, like, we can't control what's going to happen in our lives, but we can't let eat at us our own mortality, even though we all do. Everybody does at some point. But the thing about this is, okay, it's an idea, it's paranoia that gets contagious, and that's pretty much it right there. And nobody acts like a human in the entire movie. They act totally weird, and not like, oh, I'm, disturbed about, possibly dying. Just like, hey, we don't even act normal anyway. Now that we have this idea in our head, we're just going to act strange. This woman is confronting her, or talking to a doctor who starts feeling like he's going to die, and she's comforting him like she's his mother, and then she's like lonely and wants to be with somebody, and Amy's acting all weird. She has a new house. She has no contact with anybody besides maybe her friend Jane and her like boyfriend or something. And for a movie that's called She Dies Tomorrow, this seems to take place over about 50 days. It's very odd. It goes from night to day, night to day. There's these weird strobe lights and blinky things, and it's just really, really odd. There's blood on some parts of the house is very strange. Just weird shit. And I mean, I'm not against a movie being odd and being, strange. I mean, Donnie Darko was strange and people like that. And other movies can be very unusual if you have cohesion between the scenes. And a lot of these scenes just seem to be randomly placed throughout the movie. You could clearly rearrange these scenes and honestly, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. You might have, less cohesion. You might have more. You might have just the same, hodgepodge of scenes that this movie basically is. It's very, very fucking odd. Also, Michelle Rodriguez is in the movie at the end for no goddamn reason. While a woman bathes off blood in her pool and Michelle Rodriguez talks about, ancient thing where women used to wash blood off and people would think that they were doing, ritualistic sacrifices in the river. It made no goddamn sense. This movie made no sense. And Amy is suddenly in the mountains saying, I'm okay, I'm okay, I'm not okay, I'm not okay. And then nothing. I don't know who died. I don't care who died. This movie was absolute shit. Everybody was just filled with dread. And it wasn't even a bleak, depressing movie. It was just something that was just there on film, but had no cohesion. It gets a goddamn F. She Dies Tomorrow gets an F. I'm very disappointed with Neon Studios. Now let's move on to You're Not Alone. Have you seen The Pact? Congratulations, you've seen this movie because you got a daughter named Isla and her mother Emma, who actually tried to commit suicide while she was pregnant with Isla and lost custody of her, and it just eventually got custody back when her husband passed away. And honestly, this movie probably could have been a whole lot better if it was just about a ghost that was haunting them. But no, it was somebody in the walls that was killing people, and and was just doing this just because he was a drifter. He was somebody. Not explaining things isn't the worst thing in the world. Here's the big problem with the movie like this: if you don't have even halfway decent characters in the beginning, like you don't establish them like after say half a movie, you're not going to get anything out of this. And the first act actually is okay. It's not bad, but it's a very small cast, and everybody's just kind of wandering around, just doing some weird stuff. Emma and her daughter have a very fractured relationship. They have to build up some honesty, and eventually Emma does have to confess that she did try to get rid of her when she was pregnant with her. Not that she hated her, but just she was going through a very dark period in her life. And I'm not mogging that at all. I think the movie handled that just fine, but everything else is just pretty much just destroyed. Also, a cat got killed during the movie. Now, I mean, it was obviously a stuffed cat that was dead later. I mean, it wasn't, they didn't actually show, a stuffed cat or whatever getting killed, which is good. I mean, because I definitely wouldn't want to see that. I don't like animal violence in my horror movies. I just don't. I know that sounds weird, but I just don't. I can handle a lot of shit, but abusing animals, off limits. But they do the mother-daughter stuff just fine. But other than that, there's this friendship with this guy named Mark that, Emma has a friendship with him. And it turns kind of violent because clearly he wants something else from her. Kind of reminds her of a past abusive relationship she was in, seemingly, kind of. And also there's a woman looking for the cat that gets dispatched because there's somebody living in the walls. Nobody notices that somebody's living in the walls. All this time, nobody noticed. That's the thing that just fucking blows my goddamn mind. It was like The Pact, except The Pact at least had Casper Van Dien and was done halfway decently. Not that The Pact was great, but I at least got, some good stuff out of that. This movie really didn't have much of anything, and after the first act, it just totally runs out of steam. Besides the mother-daughter dynamic, and they do fine. The acting is actually okay, but really, it just slips further into bullshit and just gets even worse as time goes on. In the end, sure, you don't find out who the killer is. Maybe he's anybody. He could be anybody that, you just passed by on the streets or whatever. Sure, you can do that kind of stuff. The problem is also Emma gets stabbed in the woods a whole bunch later and then is seemingly just fine and put on a stretcher hours later when the sun comes up. It's just very, very strange and very odd that, that this movie doesn't have a lot of good, a lot of good stuff to it besides that mother-daughter, dynamic and the first 30 minutes. You can build suspense all you want, but eventually you got to pay it off, or you could just throw all the shit in the last 20 minutes, found footage style, which this wasn't found footage, but that's what found footage movies do, and then just really had no payoff where you're like, oh, we're going to hook people with the sequel. It actually was the abusive friend that wanted to be a boyfriend, but no, he got killed, but wait, he's under the mask. Oh no, the real killer got away despite being stabbed in the eye. Or maybe it was the other one who was stabbed in the eye. Who the fuck knows? Who the fuck cares? Gets an F. You're not alone. Gets an F. Anyway, agree, disagree with what I said? Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Rethlin. I'll see you soon.